What is an accredited investor? An accredited investor is a person or legal entity with special status under financial laws who is allowed to participate in non-registered investments, since being considered an individual with experience and means to participate in riskier investments and bear any potential losses. Hi, I'm Tom Howard, a business lawyer at the Collateral-Based Law Firm. This is one of my YouTube channels about business, corporate law, and litigation. So if that's what you're about, well, smash some likes and subscribes, because today we are going to cover accredited investors. The Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, permits companies and private funds the opportunity to not register certain investments as long as the firms sell these assets to accredited investors exclusively. They may participate in investment opportunities that are generally not available to non-accredited investors, including certain investments in private companies and offerings by certain hedge funds, private equity funds, and venture capital funds. Recently, in August of 2020, the SEC updated its defined term of accredited investor. So let's go over it. We turn our attention to Reg D. Principally, we're going to be in 506, but that's not where the definitions are. I think they're in 501. So, who is an accredited investor? In order to qualify as an accredited investor, a person must meet certain criteria involving his or her annual income and or net worth. For annual income, the investor must have an annual income that exceeds $200,000 or $300,000 if it is a joint family for their income over the last 2 years, and they must have the reasonable expectation of the same or higher revenue in this current year. Then also, you can look at the net worth. Now, the investor must have a net worth of $1 million or higher, either as an individual or jointly if married, at the time of the purchase of the exempt securities. Now, don't go thinking that your real estate counts toward that $1 million, at least not if it is your personal primary residence. Now, if you have other real estate investment, to the extent they are unencumbered, you can count that. However, in the case of an entity, assets must be valued at $5 million or higher to an owner who is considered an accredited investor. What about entities formed solely for the purpose of purchasing unregistered securities? No, they will not be allowed accredited status. So how can you become an accredited investor? There is no formal process or certification offered to prove that you're an accredited investor. It's kind of on the honor system, which is why you say, you're worth it, right? You're rich. So there is really no government agency to review the investor's credentials, or no exam or certification to say that that person has magically become an accredited investor. Instead, the companies selling the non-registered investments have to verify the qualifications of their buyer. The investor is required to fill out a questionnaire that asks for details of their financial income and their net worth, and also attaching supporting documents to establish that they're actually valid. Sometimes you ask for a letter from your accountant or maybe a bank, or let's say you have a whole bunch of stock at Morgan Stanley or something. At one time, you may have to prove that you tried to actually establish that they were accredited investors prior to selling them these securities. There's a cottage industry of people that will actually verify somebody as an accredited investor. But anyway, why do these accredited investors exist? The SEC created this distinction to refer to individuals who are considered sophisticated investors, who are not in need of the same levels of financial protection that the poor, common investor needs, allowing only accredited investors to participate in offerings of non-registered securities has the following purposes. It is regulating companies against advertising or soliciting investments from non-accredited investors. They also have to protect the regular investors from getting into riskier projects, especially because they may not have the reserves to handle such a loss like an accredited investor could. Making sure that those who meet the qualifications have the financial sophistication necessary to evaluate a private investment and potentially riskier opportunity. Assuring that the risk of losing their investment falls on those who financially are prepared to bear the brunt of that burden. The August 2020 SEC amendments to the definition of accredited investor are efforts to simplify and harmonize and improve the rules governing the private offering of securities while maintaining investor protections by adding new categories of qualifications, including individuals with professional certifications, designations, or credentials issued by an accredited educational institution, which the SEC may designate from time to time. Basically stockbrokers, if they have their series licenses, like their Series 7, like stockbrokers have, I got mine in 2008, that's why I don't use it anymore. those ones would now be considered accredited investors. And so would individuals who are knowledgeable employees of private funds. Now, this private funds is a defined term under the Investment Companies Act of 1940, and these are like the CEO, the officers, and the partners of a private fund. Limited liability companies, if they have $5 million in assets or more, can now become accredited investors. And then, of course, Indian tribes. I'm not sure why Indian tribes had not been included previously. Family offices with at least $5 million in assets under management and their family clients. And spouses may pool their finances for the purposes of qualifying as the accredited investor, described as a spousal equivalent. If you are interested, we put the SEC's official press release and the amendments to its rule in the description down there. If you have any questions about how accredited investors work, do not hesitate to contact us at the Collateral Base. We'll see you soon. The reason why we like accredited investors is because when you do these exempt security offerings, you can sell them to them. But if not, we'll talk more about Section 506 of Reg D in future episodes.